welcome to another exciting episode at MDIhub Tech Talks. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking about clean technology, which is basically that gap where sustainability meets creativity. And we have seen a global shift from an industrial revolution across nations, and we are here today to explore exactly what that means. Companies are implementing a global footprint, and this topic is especially interesting to me because I was once into recycling a little bit, and I'd like to get to know more what clean tech means and what it entails for us, for you as an entrepreneur, for you as a young person trying to develop something, or for you as a person with a small business in mind. So today, I've brought you an industry expert to give us the in-depth on how this works. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by an expert in business management and these kind of things, Mr. Boyingotlo, aka Binza. So, sir, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Just brief the people. What is it that you do for the hub? What are your expertise exactly?
Okay, primarily I'm more of a technical person, but just being exposed in this environment, working with innovators from, all walks in different disciplines, disciplinary backgrounds. I had to learn your soft skills, people management, business management and all of that. So I'm a talent accelerator and also more on innovation enablement, where tech meets purpose, meets directive from the actual innovator. Where are your missions and visions? Where are your goals? And yeah, we see how tech can essentially intervene to assist you to meet the goals that you wish to achieve.
Yeah.
So yeah, talent acceleration and innovation enablement.
Yeah.
Primarily, that's where I am.
Oh, okay. So part of your job is to identify talent out there
Yes.
and help it connect with the right people, I guess.
Yes.
Okay,
So now engaging with innovators, some are more technical. They don't know they don't have that business acumen. Some have the business acumen and they are able to identify opportunities where they are, where other people may not see them yet, but they don't have the technical know-how. So that's where we come in to actually see and where to fill in the gaps to actually have an ideal type of business person.
Okay. Okay. Well, today specifically, we're talking about clean technology, right? For me, the first thing that came to mind is recycling because that's what I've done. I mean, is that the right direction? What is clean technology exactly?
Okay. Clean tech essentially speaks to the idea of greening or going green and creating economic spin-offs out of this whole drive of industry, government, institutions, corporate, the idea of going green and just painting that economic opportunity element there. Just trying to formalize that drive of going green so that it relates to everyone. So now the element of tech, that's where we now speak of the shift of us moving from the resource-based economy to knowledge-based economy, where we are guided essentially by data and the use of data, how to value that data, how to interpret it, so that it adds more value into whatever it is that you've been selling, whatever service or product or process that you've been selling all along. Now incorporating data and have the data to assist you to become climate friendly as an enterprise or as an institute. Essentially that's where the tech element comes in. Clean tech, it's all about data and how this data can assist you to impact the measure, to measure the impact that you make in terms of climate readiness, climate friendliness, and all of that, and incorporate it into whatever existing service, product, process that you are selling out there.
Okay. Okay, what I'd like to know is, what do you think is the cause for all these industries and nations to just be aware of their global footprint nowadays? Do you think it's a global scare because of climate change is happening? Or is it a political shift? What exactly is implementing this shift?
Yeah, it's a blend. but primarily it comes from yeah, there's a bit of scare coming in. Obviously, back in the day, the term climate wasn't as popular as it is
It
now.
really is,
It
yeah.
used to be called global warming. Then it shifted to global cooling. And then the people were like, okay, where are we going? Are we warming or are we cooling? And then, they came in the umbrella term climate,
Okay.
climate friendliness, climate readiness, which now incorporated the abuse of resources, the abuse of plastics, where how can we curb this? I mean, essentially, plastic isn't as biodegradable as compared to paper-based paper bags.
Yeah.
Even your straws, your consumer straws that we normally use to sip on drinks. It's plastic, and yeah, plastic takes time to decompose. So it's not as ideal in terms of biodegradable material. So rather shift towards paper-based or any other biodegradable material based on properties, and with these properties also guided by the data that we get from the different measures taken to measure the impact. Different instruments being in place there. Yeah. So yeah, essentially, it speaks to both the debacle that we once had that spoke to climate cooling, climate warming, or global cooling, global warming, to climate, and then also speaking to the use of new material or new material development that can be regarded as climate friendly, and also speaking to the promotion of circularity, repurposing material that used to be used for certain type of material as a plastic, repurposing it to a different form of product where this plastic has now elements of biodegradability. As we progress further in terms of research outputs, we are able to generate new materials faster, based on even new developing computing speeds or high compute capabilities. They are also able to assist a lot of research institutes to develop new materials, to prospect the properties of these new materials that are being developed, and to say we are now developing clothing made out of hemp or any other type of material that a day-to-day consumer may need. Just to these high volume products that are moving in the shelves, how can we curb those? How can we target those products to say we are now developing biodegradable material? Speaking to clothing, it can be any type of product that essentially has been out there that we use day to day, but now we are now instilling that climate readiness, into it. And then there's the energy portion, where we've always had our combustion engine cars, but now there's this essential element that has been added where even the consumer, at a consumer level, there's participation that can be, or there's a role that can be taken in terms of participating in terms of what we call the biofuels or bioenergy, where fuel from your cooking oil, your mayonnaise, can be repurposed and reprocessed to be added onto our mainstream fuel that our filling stations use to fill our cars with. So the current standard in terms of sulfur content in our fuel, it's at anything below 50 parts per million in any type of fuel, whether diesel or petrol. Now there's this element. I don't know how to put it. It's more like a mandatory request in a form of policy to say all fuel must now have a 6 to 7% input of biofuel added onto your day-to-day fuel.
Okay.
So even jet fuel, not only for our cars but also jet fuel also. Yeah.
Brings it feels worse.
So it creates an opportunity even for our consumers to play a role in terms of the development of, biofuel, the processing of biofuel, and now adding it onto our mainstream fuel.
Okay, I just got intrigued there by biofuel, because I mean, apparently us consumers can be a part of that as well, right? So what is biofuel? How do you?
Yeah, biofuel essentially any fuel that comes from can be plant-based.
Okay.
Even your different types of oils, vegetable oils that we use in our day-to-day cooking. There's olive oil, coconut oil. There's oil added in your mayonnaise that can be
Extracted.
that's essentially, these are the consumer fuels that we would normally throw away the container or throw away whatever residue that comes out of it. But in this case, especially with our the hospitality sector, they use these oils at high volumes. So what happens to the residue that comes out of that oil? That's where the repurposing comes into play. As a consumer, you can now make your own collections to say, this oil that used to be, or that was primarily used for cooking or for essential oils or for whatever oil, whatever use that a consumer would normally use them for or need these oils for. They can be taken up and be prospected, be processed, and say there's an element of vegetable oils into our mainstream oil. This oil can be prospected to or repurposed as a form of energy source, and yeah, be added onto our mainstream energy. So even the processing on its own, it's not a thing of moving from point A to point B. There are byproducts that can come out of that also. You can make a degreaser, you can make a glycerine, all within this value chain, while working towards making the actual engine-ready bio oil or biofuel product that you're working on. So there's a lot that can be prospected out of that, and there's a lot of opportunities to come out of that whole process, from a consumer good to being a mainstream jet engine oil or a combustion engine oil. What is it that could also come out of this whole processing thing? So
Okay. Just to get your mind as a business person, what got you into clean tech and working in cooperation with companies like NCIC and GCIP, which are national brands? Yeah.
Okay. With It's essentially a thing of influence. As a company, it's best to be aware of the institutional changes that are being put in place. More especially when we now start speaking to, or where banking comes into play, because in a lot of countries, policy is mainly influenced through banking or through financial institutions, where our banks are essentially regarded as role players in terms of influencing the end consumer or the end user in as far as adoption of climate ready measures and solutions to come out of that. Enabling solution providers to say, if your solution works within the climate scope, you are eligible to apply to qualify for certain packages within banking that we can assist your small business. It can be tax rebates, it can be, anything along those lines. It goes all the way down to the consumer. If a consumer applies for a home loan, there are those boxes to tick that speak to, within this home loan, are you willing to apply solar as your energy source or any other renewable energy source within your home, within your infrastructure? That on its own becomes it increases your chances of qualifying for the loan. So such institutional influences where banking comes into play, they force people to actually adhere to or to be aware of these goals that we are all trying to achieve as corporate, as government, as a consumer, as institutions. We have to adhere to these goals, and it's essentially a thing of that on its own created a whole opportunity for most of our clean tech providers or solution providers and innovators to say, seems like now policy is favoring us in terms of us being the solution providers within this space. So with clean tech, obviously, primarily we think of energy-related solutions, but anything to do even with waste management and landfill management, and with that, moving from that to the beneficiation part of it, waste to value solutions. What can people do with this waste? What can be prospected out of it, and what products can we repurpose out of this waste? That it essentially comes from primarily from sector A, and now we are repurposing it to serve sector B. So it's essentially that acknowledgement of policy favoring us to say, okay, we are now in the spotlight as clean tech solution providers. To now we are being embraced to service this particular gap where we are addressing not only legacy grid electricity grid challenges, but also resource use challenges. Where how can we sustainably use different resources? Water efficiency, that also falls under clean tech. Energy efficiency solutions, where we try and teach the customer to say, okay, there's no one in the room. Why don't we, for now, switch off the aircon, switch off the television for the time being? It speaks to your electricity bill, but it also speaks to the grid on the generation part. How can we assist each other from the generation to the transmission down to the consumption of energy? Same thing with water efficiency. You run a block of flats. Your block of flats are ideal for a family of 4, but then there's suddenly a visit from a relative or a friend
with 3 kids.
Well, what's happening? Why are there so many liters of water being used now? Why is there a sudden spike? So water efficiency speaks to that type of scenario to say, okay, your flats are known to have certain liters of usage. Looking at historical data and usage patterns that inform this data. So now this is us putting measures in place to say X amount of liters for your flat, for your apartment, and then that's it. Anything additional, you will have to inform us. We'll have to add make an additional bill to you. Just the acknowledgement, and then the actual usage of liters. So it speaks, that's on the business side, and then you on the consumer side. Also assisting the authorities also in terms of working with data. Clean tech cuts across, but as I said, data being a key enabler in terms of impact measurement in all of these segments within clean tech. There's another one, high capex, e-mobility. That one, it's a long shot, but we are getting there. The introduction of hybrid cars, and also the value chain, and seeing how different service providers can play a role in that adoption drive. We have a few partners also within the GCIP network, one being Uyilo, who are essentially the key custodians to drive e-mobility adoption. And with adoption, it's not just the consumer, but also creating talent and capacity that can service this newly developed sector, from your mechanics who do retrofitting of your legacy combustion cars and repurpose them to become EVs or battery-based cars, You have your battery assemblers who are known to import battery cells and customize them in terms of the rating based on the application of this battery. Is it used for stationary application where it powers a building like this one, or is it used for motion-based type of setups where it can be a car, it can be an three-wheeler or an e-bike. The type of rating in terms of charge and discharge. It also in terms of second life batteries, because what I've just described for you in terms of EVs, we call those first life batteries.
Okay.
Second life batteries is where now that battery that used to be used for EVs is now being repurposed to serve your stationary building like this one, where the charge and the discharge is a bit longer because of the consumption is constant compared to a car where today it can travel 50 k's commuting from work to home. Tomorrow it can be in a long distance drive, so the consumption isn't as constant compared to a residential area or an industrial facility like this one, where you know that the rating, the consumption is constant. Yeah.
Okay. So just on your personal side, so do you think buying a hybrid car is the way to go right now?
It's the safest way to go.
Is it?
Yeah, you're taking me to a subject that it's a bit political. I don't want to touch much on it, but
Okay.
yeah, hybrid is the way to go. As you know, we are currently, there's a war happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, I don't know about that. True.
The price of fuel is skyrocketing.
Skyrocketing right now.
It's affecting the consumer, it's affecting industry, it's affecting the freight industry.
So we know that MDIhub is a deploying party for projects under GCIP, as you've mentioned, and NCIC. Take us, what is GCIP and how can people find themselves being part of these programs?
Okay, the GCIP, or the Global Clean Tech Innovation Program, it's a UNIDO initiative. UNIDO being the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, where they've partnered with Engine being the network of global innovators. It's a mentorship network specifically tied to, or made up of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in residences, like our space, like this one being an incubator and accelerator. You have entrepreneurs who reside here, whose offices are based here and are serving clients outside. So Engine is made up of such people, such mentors who speak clean tech. They've been through the ups and downs of clean tech. Prior to this, policies that are now favoring the adoption of clean tech solutions. They've been through the ups and downs. One of them being Mr. Fred Walty, who has been running a clean tech clean tech incubation program in Los Angeles. And so he's now someone who's looking to kind of assist the local adoption in terms of the incorporation of policy and working with and implementing or a national administrator like the Technology Innovation Agency, or TIA, to serve as the ecosystem enabler. And now with TIA, it now comes down to us as implementing partners within our respective regions. MDIhub serving the Northwest region, and other hubs serving other parts of the country. So MDIhub speaks directly to TIA. TIA then speaks to Engine and UNIDO in terms of, it can be a thing of trying to formulate a program in terms of the facilitation of the program, the reporting and all of that. How do we take it back to UNIDO in terms of impact measurement? Because that's what UNIDO wants.
Yeah.
They want to see those measures being taken in terms of impact analysis. So it's a thing of now MDIhub serving the Northwest region, and us being part of the broader GCIP program, Global Clean Tech Innovation Program, where ours as implementing partners is to source talent on the ground. It can be a grassroots entrepreneur, but it favors more entrepreneurs who've been in the market, because even if you look at the makeup of the mentorship network and the partner hub network that TIA has established, there's few of us who are at grassroots level, are able to source talent at grassroots and develop this entrepreneurial talent towards accelerator level. There are other hubs who are able to now take talent from accelerator to post accelerator, advanced accelerator, global accelerator level. So in this case, it's a thing of we speak to actual business development services, product development service, and then there are other hubs who essentially speak to funding readiness. Because there's different indexing being put in place. We speak to technology readiness, business readiness, market readiness. Okay. That's the core element that GCIP looks at. Okay. And then there's the funding readiness where other partner hubs come into play and say, do you have metrics in place? Have you engaged the market? What is the response of the market in terms of your product or your service that you are looking to introduce? Do you have clients? Is your product only servicing the primary market, or is there an adjacent market that you can target as well? Should client A say no to you? Is it an end all be all for you? Or is there another client that you can target within your product, position it as a service or as a process? Speaking to a client who already has a product, can you position this product now as a service to complement that client's product? Yes. So that's essentially what this partner network within GCIP, that's what we speak to. And yeah, anything from solutions spanning from water efficiency, energy efficiency, waste beneficiation, e-mobility, renewable energy, green chemicals, biodegradable material development, anything along the spectrum. We all acknowledge all of these solutions as clean tech solutions. Okay. And the use of data, because as I've been speaking to efficiency, it's not just water and energy, but we would ideally cluster it under resource use efficiency. There's also the element that and as far as the NCIC, it speaks to environmental rehabilitation, rehabilitating degraded land. So in our case, it's mining, rehabilitating degraded mined lands. As you know, Northwest is largely known for mining practices, or our key economic indicators are largely driven by mining and agriculture. So we decided to create a nexus where mining is involved, but the actual solutions that are to come out of that not only speak to the rehabilitation and regeneration of that degraded land, but also how can this land be repurposed to create further economic spin-offs. Should it be that a mine shaft closes, it doesn't create an economic shock for the nearby communities. There's other initiatives that are in place where they will partake, and these are sustainable economic practices.
That was a mouthful of information, firstly, but let's just carry on. So what do you think is the big opportunity here when it comes to clean tech for young people out there, your small business owners, your medium business owners? They have to implement this kind of work, or just people who want to be entrepreneurs in general. What is the opportunity there for them?
There's a lot of drive. As I've touched on policy, in being in their favor in terms of being a clean tech entrepreneur, but also as an enterprise. Essentially, say you're in the hospitality sector and you want to promote, the use of or applying circular measures into how you dispose your waste. You know that there's an end beneficiary who's waiting there to collect your waste so that they can repurpose that waste for something else. There are also rebates there. There are tax rebates attached to that, that in your favor as a business because you are applying sustainable practices into your day-to-day operation. But for the entrepreneur, there's lots of opportunities that are constantly emerging. As I've said, guided by data to assist you to, measure the impact that you're making. A farmer applying the use of precision tools, data dashboards, sensors on the ground to say, irrigation. Am I applying as much irrigation as I used to ever since I've, onboarded these sensors? Because these sensors guide you to say the soil is 65% moist or 35% dry. Is it a thing of you using those calibrated measures that you've put in place? I'm applying X amount of liters of water to irrigate my farm compared to the way I used to do it prior to this. When it's raining, there's a rain sensor that says true or false. Is it raining? Is there a need for me to irrigate? No, there's no need for me to do so. Especially if you are out of the farm and you are operating remotely, you want to make those measures, or you've put those measures in place. You used to use a timer. That timer used to say by every Thursday by 4 p.m. I irrigate. You now have additional tools that are able to assist your operation to effectively irrigate based on the condition of the soil, not because of the timer says every Thursday, but because of the wetness of the soil, because of the NPK measures of the soil, the pH balance, and all of that. So you apply those precision measures there that assist your operation. An operation like this one, where we can easily apply energy efficiency measures. It assists us with the electricity bill, off-grid power. It assists us in terms of should we decide to apply for a loan or an ESCOM grant, we are more eligible to get one. For the service provider or for the entrepreneur, that promotion of sustainable means of disposing waste and taking that waste and repurposing it, there's a lot of funding calls for that. That are encouraging a lot of entrepreneurs to tap into this space. And even for someone who used to regard these methods or practices as standard indigenous means of doing things or disposing waste, the use of data now encourages these people to become entrepreneurial, to say this is a solution that you can sell to someone else, to say you can teach someone on how to be climate ready, be climate friendly by applying these measures in terms of disposing waste. A potential client can be your local municipality in terms of creating solutions around landfill management. With landfill management, how do you create a program that can teach the locals in terms of collecting waste, and that collected waste being sorted? After being sorted, how do we repurpose all of this waste? How do we find gaps to repurpose this waste? How do we create these pipelines for potential clients? It can be console in terms of glass. You can take all of that glass and say you're creating a pipeline for console to expand their reach in terms of buyback centers, where they take that waste and actually empower these individual waste pickers, not to necessarily subscribe to a particular buyback center, but also inspire them to just being sustainable as individuals themselves. So you create those pipelines in terms of plastics. There's impact, glass, there's console, there's all of these big industry players that are known to benefit out of this waste that is being collected. That speaks to their day-to-day operations. They don't have to source glass from a dedicated buyback center, but they can find even other cheaper alternative means of sourcing glass and repurposing that glass and.
Okay. You touched a bit about farming, right? When I did my research a little bit, I think there's someone, I don't know if you know this person, who was part of the GCIP winners, whether it was 2024, 2025, somewhere there, who did some farming irrigation system that saves like 90% of cost and stuff like that.
Yes.
So do you think there's more people doing it in farming, or it's just better or easier implementation when it comes to farming?
Hey, the thing is, you have to deal with the mindset of the farmer first, because they look at that such a solution and they think of capex. They think more money out of my pocket, whereas I've just been operating well within my means. Yes, I'm making a bit of a loss, but I can control this loss. But when you sell such a solution that tells them that you can save 90% of water, and they think of adopting that solution, you have to first fight with the concept or the mindset that says I'll still have to spend to procure this particular solution that you're selling to me. So yeah, adoption is still it's not a walk in the park. You have to engage them first. They do see the impact that you're making, but just thinking of the money that has to come out of their pocket. You as an entrepreneur now need to reposition yourself to say, okay, am I selling the solution as the product, or am I selling the service? How can I add more services to whatever solution that I'm selling? How is it that I can give you, the farmer, to pilot this solution within your farm and make revenue out of the service that come out of it? It can be maintenance related, it can be data related, data collection where it's a smart setup, smart irrigation setup, and now you're collecting revenue out of the actual service that come out of that. What do you do with the data? You can sell it to a third-party applicant who requests that data. It can be a research institute looking to use that data for something else. It can be you packaging an educational course for a prospective farmer who's looking to apply these measures or these means that you said that your solution has saved 90% of water for this particular farmer, meaning it's more savings for this particular farmer. How is it that we can actually apply this particular solution? So you create that pipeline to say eventually they will buy my product, but how can I take them step by step? You create an educational package, you create a farmer's dashboard, you create a service that speaks to data collection, that also speaks to the maintenance of whatever setup or infrastructure that you've set up for the farmer. Yeah, so just bit by bit, take the farmer step by step, because they are known to be quite stubborn. Because, hey, you are walking into a farm that this person most probably inherited the farm. Even the practices studied within
Also
their farm
inherited.
also inherited, and now you're coming up with you
new
telling me
system.
all of this English, and I still have to spend money
Money
out of
on
my
it.
pocket to procure whatever it is that you're selling to me. So
Get
yeah,
you. Get you.
step by step.
Okay, so it's a mindset shift
Yeah,
that we're working on with people.
Yeah.
I guess it's a global mindset shift because globally we're changing now from fossil fuels anyways.
yes. With that, there's still a lot of resistance at large. The umbrella term, climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still a lot of resistance in that regard. Political influence here and there, weaponization of certain industries being enabled to say, if we want to process or if we want to manufacture these solar panels, we need energy that is reliable. We can't manufacture batteries while our facility is powered by batteries. We need, our legacy fuel, a fossil-based type of grid to power us to manufacture these batteries. And as research goes on, we now are moving from lithium to now solid-state batteries. Solid state, it's faster charge, and the discharge is quite longer. It's being adopted in the EV space, where a 5-minute charge can power a battery for up to 400 kilometers in one charge.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So is that, there's a bit of improvement in terms of research and development, but for that research and development to be facilitated, we need reliable energy to power the production of these solar panels, these batteries, and all of that.
Okay. So as we're talking, you mentioned programs like your GCIP, your NCICs, Global and Local Clean Tech Innovations. What are those exactly? Is it a competition? Is it a funding program? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so both programs are quite competitive, both UNIDO programs. GCIP is more of it's an accelerator essentially, where top 40 finalists or whatever, top whatever, let me not say top 40, top whatever, they are taken through, a learning path that guides them in terms of, the key emphasis is more on market dynamics because they know that most of the applicants that come in, very few of them are actually in the market or are making generating revenue out of a clean tech solution. You'd find that they are they're generating revenue out of all other services except for this particular clean tech project. So the emphasis is more on market analysis and validation, your market dynamics, how to test the market, who are your first few customers before you engage those customers. You set up those quizzes or those feedback type of questionnaires or quizzes. How do you approach your first client? How do you relate such a solution to them? Because clean tech is essentially, it's not something completely new. It's something that you are adding on to something that they use day to day. You are now just applying climate friendly means or practices in terms of doing whatever it is that they are doing day to day. You are sourcing energy to power your home. You are applying greener means of doing so, or disposing waste, or regulating the usage of water or energy and all of that. You're just applying or adding more greener, climate friendly measures in place. So now, how do you relate such a solution to them to say, I've developed a generator that doesn't rely on any hydrocarbons. Maybe it solely relies on the principle of magnetism. Fine, but then how is it that this generator differs from that one? That one is cheaper, but then long term, you have to buy more fuel, you have to do this, you have to do that. Same with EVs. The way our OEMs market these EVs, they say in the long run, yes, at capex, when you make an immediate purchase, it's quite expensive, but in the long run, it becomes cheaper because the cost of maintenance. You don't have to run around taking care of this, looking at that, whatever, because it's mainly its main source of motion and energy comes from a battery, compared to a number of components that have to be assembled together, the use of fuel, this and that. So yeah, it's a thing of now the emphasis being on how do you market this solution? How do you, what's your go-to market strategy? And if your go-to market strategy, you realize that there's a pattern that says the inputs from my potential customers says 1, 2, 3, which immediately takes me out of scope. How can I now reposition myself? How can I take this particular solution and repurpose the solution for a different customer, as a service or as a process? Or do I completely pivot from making this particular product and look at making another whole new solution altogether? Yeah, there's a lot of dropouts, unfortunately, from the program because of this particular challenge. Where you realize that, yeah, my solution worked well in my head, but when I engage the market doesn't really, yeah, they can't relate, they don't really see the need for it. particularly the target market that I'm looking at. Maybe it serves people of a higher tax bracket.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Is
And
this why GCIP has mentorship implemented into its program?
yes, there's a
Okay.
whole lot of mentorship from experienced entrepreneurs, people from research councils, also come in. But the key emphasis is from entrepreneurs, and we also have your funders. But those funders, you'd find that they are also founders of businesses. So they've had their fair share of experience in terms of running a founder-led business, being in the market, and they've had their fair share of rejections in the market. They know their experience, so they understand that innovation isn't just any other service. Innovation takes, hey, it doesn't really have a definitive time frame, because you are constantly improving. You are improving a service that is already out there. Will people accept and adopt this improvement? Will they see the value that you bring with this particular improvement, or will they just, yeah, stick to their service that they know to be cheaper? They've already budgeted for it, and yeah, it's that particular challenge.
Okay. Okay. To catch you there. Guys, if you're ready at this stage of our episode, press the like button, press the share button, show whoever needs it. We're coming to the end of our session. So, just the last question for you: how do people get in touch? Any websites, any emails? How do you market yourself out there?
Okay, in as far as for the coming GCIP pre-accelerator and main accelerator program that we are running, the first one being the masterclass that we are yet to have on Friday. There will be follow-up sessions throughout June, because on Friday the official pre-acceleration window will be closing, where in June, 1st June, we'll be opening calls for entries for the main accelerator. So within that window from the 1st of June to the 10th of July, we'll still be running your master classes, your hackathons, ideathons, just trying to shape these guys who already are in the market through other different services-based solutions, and just trying to channel them and sensitize them in terms of innovation and how innovation in the space works. How capital intensive it is, how there's a lot of hand holding needed there. It's not just a thing of you coming up with a solution, formulating it, and wanting to test it in the market. You still need to make actual test on the actual solution. It can be, if it's a physical product, it can be mechanical tests, brittleness tests, thermal tests, mechanical tests, whatever tests that are needed there, to be put on your product. If it's a chemical based test, we need your samples. If you are repurposing waste and developing a different product out of that waste, we need to test the samples and the actual properties of the product that you've developed out of that waste. So different types of tests are needed there. So yeah, we'll just be taking people through all of that during the pre-acceleration window and during the main acceleration window for entries. Yeah, it essentially it will be that, and yeah, from there it will be the selection of the top whatever semi-finalists. I think from the 13th of July, it will be a collaborative effort amongst all the hubs, because there will be hundreds of applications that come through, and we'll just need to select a few out of those. A similar thing is being done right now with NCIC.
Okay.
Each and every province, each and every region, screening was done. Now judging is being done. Out of the judging, we have to select the top 10 out of the first rounds of judging. And we'll have the second round of judging where we'll have to select top 5. This top 5, these are the people who will be taken through to the finals to go and just acknowledge them and issue out the grand prize to the top winners.
Basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
in July also
All right.
happening. Okay. Otherwise, relating to these activities, pre-acceleration and main acceleration activities, you can reach to us through my email, bmolefe@mafihub.co.za. Molefe Wating is not your usual Molefe, it's FHE at the end. BMOLEFHE at mafihub.co.za. Otherwise, through WhatsApp, you can reach us through my personal number 078 Otherwise, the marketing team will also share theirs for queries. Yeah, essentially, yeah, I think that's the most accessible. That's how far we can get in terms of access and just making queries regarding the program. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That was very impactful. Just thank you for coming through, sharing your knowledge. That was very, very impactful. Everybody watching right now, thank you for watching till the end of the show. It was fun. MDIhub Tech Talks. And until next time, I'll keep finding experts for you to drop all this knowledge, everything reliable, everything technical to improve your life as an entrepreneur, businessman, a young person out there. So MDIhub Tech Talks. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everywhere. And until next time, keep innovating. Peace.